Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Ah, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Kodanitai, Maya Poshashi Jaya Kodanitai, Maya Poshashi. Jaya Kodanitai, Maya Poshashi, Kodanitai, Maya Poshashi. Prabhupada, 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 Iskam Guru Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shishi Kodanitai, Maya Poshashi Ki Jai. Krishna Prasna Mithilation Mati Shiva Ram Thank you. Swap here. Reading from the Nectar of Devotion. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. We need a new one of those, really. This one's getting a bit fatigued. So we were on the qualities of Krishna. So Krishna's body generates innumerable universes. That's quality 57. In the 10th canto, 14th chapter, verse 11 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma says, "My dear Lord, false ego, intelligence, mind, sky, air, fire, water, and earth are the material ingredients of this universe, which are to be compared to a gigantic pot. In that gigantic pot, my body is of insignificant measurement, and even though one of the many universes created by me, innumerable universes are coming and going from the pores of your body, just as atomic particles are seen flickering in the sunlight. I think I am very, very insignificant before you, and I am therefore begging your pardon. Please be merciful toward me." If one takes account only of one universe, he will find so many combinations of wonderful things within, because there are innumerable planets, innumerable residences and places of demigods. The diameter of the universe is 4 billion miles, and it is infested with many unfathomable regions, such as Patalokas or low planetary systems. Although Krishna is the origin of all this, he can always be seen in Vrindavan, exhibiting his inconceivable potencies. So who can adequately worship such an all-powerful Lord, possessed of such inconceivable energy? Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki jai, Shri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. So if anyone says that they're an incarnation of God, have a look at the pores of his skin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading the Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 7. It's chapter 15. Okay. And this chapter is entitled Instructions for Civilized Human Beings. And it's text 15. Dhammatam api neheta. Dhammatam api neheta. Yatratatam vadano dhanam. Yatratam vadano dhanam. Hani hani hamanasya mahahe iva vrittida mahahe iva vrittida dhammatam api nehite yatratam vivadano dhanam. Hani hani hamanasya mahahe iva vrittida dhammatam api nehita yatratam vadano dhanam. Hani hani himanasya mahahe iva vrittida dhammatam api nehita yatratam vadano dhanam. Hani hani hamanasya mahahe iva vrittida dhammatam api nehita vadano dhanam. Hani hani hamanasya mahahe iva vrittida dhammatam api nehita yatatam vadano dhanam. Hani hani manasya mahahe iva vrittida dhammatam api nehita vadano dhanam. Hani hani himanasya mahahe iva vrittida dhamma atam. In religion or economic development, api, indeed, na, not, ihita, one should try to obtain yatra artam, just to maintain the body and soul together. Va, either adana, one who has no wealth. Dhanam, money. Aniha, the desirelessness. Aniha manasa, of a person who knows not to endeavor to earn his livelihood. Maha ahe, the great serpent known as the python. Eva, like Vrittida, which obtains its livelihood without endeavor. Translation: even if a man is poor, he should not endeavor to improve his economic condition just to maintain his body and soul together, or to become a famous religionist. Just as a great python, although lying in one place nor endeavoring for its livelihood, gets the food it needs to maintain the body and soul, one who is desireless always obtains the livelihood without endeavor. His livelihood without endeavor. Responsibly, please. Even if a man is poor, he should not endeavor to improve his economic condition just to maintain his body and soul together, or to become a famous religionist. Just as a great python, although lying in one place, not endeavoring for its livelihood, gets the food it needs to maintain body and soul, one who is desireless also obtains his livelihood without endeavor. That reminds me of that story we just heard from Pranavananda, that when that king went away, he renounced all his desires, and his wife had a silver plate, and she was still afraid. So she gave away the silver plate, then she wasn't afraid. And then she was praying for something to come, and then 2 gold plates came with all the mahara. Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Human life is simply meant for developing Krishna consciousness. One need not even try to earn a livelihood, to maintain body and soul together. This is illustrated here by the example of the great python, which lies in one place, never going here and there to earn a livelihood, to maintain itself, and yet is maintained by the grace of the Lord. As advised by Narada Muni in the Bhagavatam 1.5.18, Tasyeva heto prayateta kovida. One should simply endeavor to increase his Krishna consciousness. One should not desire to do anything else, even to earn his livelihood. There are many, many examples of this attitude. Bhadavendra Puri, for instance, would never go to anyone to ask for food. Shukadeva Goswami also said, Kasmad bhajanti kavayo dana doma danadan. Why should one approach a person who is blind with wealth? Rather, one should depend on Krishna and he will give everything. All the members of our Krishna consciousness movement, whether we be grihastas or sannyasis, should try to spread the Krishna consciousness movement with determination, and Krishna will supply all necessities. The process of ajagara vritti, the means of livelihood of a python, is very much appreciated in this regard. Even though one may be very poor, he should simply try to advance in Krishna consciousness and not endeavor to earn his livelihood. Om Agyanatimaranda Shagananyana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhastam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhattarinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha. Panitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So we just read about the python a few chapters earlier. Prahlad Maharaj met a sage who was taking the example of the python, and he was just lying there and eating wherever came his way. And Prahlad said, how come you're quite tubby? And he said, oh, the Lord is very kind. So the Lord amply gives whatever we need. And if we interfere with that and start trying to initiate situations, then that acts out with what Krishna wants to arrange for us. And then there's problems. As it says in the Ishopanishad, for one who understands his quota and just accepts that, then he can live for many hundreds of years. If you just accept your quota, whatever comes your way. And Achihara Priyasascha, if it's an over endeavor, if you're finding it really, really difficult to do something, then just take it. Okay, so it's probably, Krishna probably doesn't want it to happen. At least if it's for our own personal gratification, then we can avoid the prayasas. And what's Achihara? Jayananda, any idea what Achihara is? Achihara, no? If you do a lot of achiharing, it means you're an achihari. Achihari. Are you an achihari? Achihara means that you're collecting more than you need. You're eating more than you need. So you're not in tune with what's actually been prescribed for you. And then you over endeavor for those things which are not actually your quota. And so this greed is the worst. There's lust, anger, and greed. And greed's the worst because you can satisfy a lusty man, at least for a certain period of time. And you can satisfy an angry man for a certain period of time, but you can't satisfy a greedy man. However much you give him, he says, oh, that's very nice, thank you. Do you think you could just squeeze a bit more on the plate? In fact, I've got a second plate here, if you could put a bit on there. So that's a greedy man. So the greedy man is never happy. So anyway, that was the culture, and we see how much it's become, how much the Indian culture has become contaminated by this Western influence. The West has spread like a cancer, and so therefore it has undermined all these principles and encouraged everyone to become part of the economic mechanism where everyone consumes. They take more than they give. Everybody wants to get more than they give. Everybody wants to get the most amount of money for doing the least amount of work. So we don't want to be like that in devotional service, that I want to get the maximum amount of benefit out of doing whatever I'm doing and do the least amount at the same time. And you'll notice people that complain, you find in a community there's a certain element of people that complain a lot, and they have a lot of things to complain about. And the reason why they have so much time to complain is because they're not busy working. And because they're not engaged in devotional service, then they become engaged in criticism and fault finding. That's how they use up the extra time they've got. Whereas if they were fully engaged, they wouldn't have time for issues because they'd be so busy trying to get out the material ocean themselves. Ainanda tanus kinkaram. Kinkara. We want to be kinkaras, just Krishna's servants. Just pull us out. We don't want to worry about who's doing what in the ocean, how we got here. And all we want is just to be picked up and placed as an atom at your lotus feet. Any questions or comments?
Thank you. That was very illuminating, Prabhu. I appreciate it, as always. Just a question. If some of us are over-endeavouring, or maybe, how do we know if we're over-endeavouring in Krishna consciousness, or if we're eating too much? For example, if I don't maintain my body correctly, then I get pain. And, it's like I don't function right, and I get preoccupied by, not being in good condition. But to be in good condition, I need to eat a little bit more of certain foods. Is this over-endeavouring? Should I be accepting of my condition and take it as that's my lot, or should I, put effort in to maintain myself?
Yeah, how do we, self-realization means becoming aware of what it is that's going to be favorable for your Krishna consciousness and what's not going to be favorable. And sometimes that may not be immediately apparent. So you may do something which you think is going to help your Krishna consciousness in terms of your enthusiasm and your confidence to make an endeavor. And then it may later on turn out to impact on it. And you don't know that at the time. And then you learn. They say that good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment. So sometimes the way that you learn is through the school of hard knocks. Of course, the wise man learns by hearing. The not so wise man learns by seeing. And the not so wise man learns by experience. And then the really silly person doesn't learn by experience. And so if you don't learn by experience, it means you keep getting knocked on the head. You keep getting your enthusiasm snuffed out, and you're not really aware of why is that? I was so fired up yesterday, and today I can hardly lift my bead bag. What went wrong, you know? So we need to try and figure that one out, because it's self-realization. We're not trying to realize for anybody else. If we're looking at everybody else and thinking, oh, this person should have done this, and this person should have done that, that's all the time we could have spent on looking at ourselves. And we need to really, unless if we're put in a position where we're a leader or a guru, we have to do that. But if it's not our service, then we should be more occupied with ourselves and less preoccupied with others, you know. So we're a work in progress, and it takes time sometimes to hone the skills to understand what is going to be detrimental and what is going to be beneficial. Sometimes it can be very counterintuitive. The very thing that you think is helping you ends up being the thing which is impeding you. But it just seems like it is because of the way that we're conditioned, you know. So sometimes it is counterintuitive. I mean, intuitively, we tend to think, I'll be enthusiastic when I feel like being enthusiastic. And when I don't feel like being enthusiastic, well, no point in trying to push it, you know. So that's very counterintuitive, that when you don't feel enthusiastic, that's especially when you have to be enthusiastic. Because obviously, when you're feeling enthusiastic, the reason why Swami is saying you have to be enthusiastic is because he knows we don't feel like being enthusiastic. Otherwise, he wouldn't have to say it, right? If you only had to be enthusiastic when you felt like being enthusiastic, well, that's fine, you know. So the fact is, he's aware that we're not that enthusiastic a lot of the time. And then what is it that dampens the enthusiasm? Are we hearing properly? Are we chanting properly? Are we serving properly? If we are, then anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam. There's nectar at every step. So we have to figure that out. We have to figure out in japa what's going wrong here. There's 5 obstacles before we get to the stage of being nishta and eligible for spontaneous devotional service. There's 5 obstacles. Where are the 5? You were just displaying one just then. Laya. You know what that is? Jayananda. Laya. What does it mean? Laya. Not a layer of like paint. Laya. Like an arrow's head. An animal stand. Oh, like a layer. Yeah, this one is a Sanskrit word, laya. You know what layer is?
Laziness.
Yep, it sure is. Sleep. Sleep. There's our first one. There's 5 things that stop you becoming nishta. Before you get to nishta, there's 5 things. First one, sleep. Second one, vikshepa, distraction. You're really going to chant now? You're really going to... Oh yeah, that's right. I've got to get a pair of socks. That last one's got a massive hole in it. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So we become distracted. Then apratipati. Any idea what apratipati is? Indifference or disinterest in spiritual topics. Kashaya, tendency toward bad habits. And rasavad, taste for material enjoyment. 5 things. They're the things we're battling with every day. So we're trying to figure out, well, what do I need to do to make sure I don't get caught by this, and how do I not get caught by that? And then And then there's 6 different types of unsteady devotional service. Garana Tarala, Tarangarani, Vikalpa, Niyama Akshama, Utsamai. What's the other one? And that's mental vacillation, battling with sense enjoyment, delighting in facilities that come when you practice devotional service, false confidence, inability to follow vows. Jai. So it's like when we first come to Krishna consciousness, we think, oh, I'm just going to have a dip in the nectar of the ocean of bliss, And it seems like everything's going to be great, And then once we're in, then we find out Nam Namakari Bahuda Nisha Sava Shakti is everything's great, but the problem is I'm not getting a taste because I'm making offenses. And the offenses are like fences. They stop you. So 11 things you've got to try and get over before you're going to get... Now, when you get to the stage of Nishta, what happens at the stage of Nishta, Jayananda? What happens at the stage of Nishta? That's when your devotional service really begins. Up until then, it has pollutants in it and contaminations in it. And Krishna's pleased that you're trying, but when you become fixed, then he actually starts to relish your service, and then taste comes, because the service now that's being rendered is of such a high quality that you experience taste, because you're doing things so nicely. So you're really satisfied when you make some things, you cook some nice prasadam and you're satisfied. You go out and you do some sankirtan. It's like, I did that really well. I preached really well. I led that kirtan really well. Not in a proud way, but you just feel satisfied that you've done this nicely, And then you're starting to get some rati, some taste. So it's an interesting book I came across. It's called Demystifying Raganuga Bhakti. It's from ISKCON Desire Tree, 500 pages, 450. At what stage does greed develop? Devotees qualified to make the transition between Vaidhi and Raganuga Bhakti must be at the stage of steadiness, Nishta, and must have given up attachment to things that divert the mind from service. Anyway, if we're at least clear what the sadhya is, what the goal is, then we can, if we stay fixed on the goal, then we can become less preoccupied with the obstacles that are there. We understand, oh, this is another contaminant, another distraction, another impediment on the path that I have to push past, and keep focused on the sadhya, on the goal, to become spontaneous. And not necessarily that when you become spontaneous, because it says that you don't follow the rules and regulations, and everyone's like, okay, so then we can just do intoxication and illicit sex. But you still follow the regular principles, even when you're spontaneous, even more so, because you're spontaneously averse to anything that's detrimental. Anyway, there's some misconceptions that can be there, because the neophyte will have a mundane idea of what he thinks spontaneous devotional service is. And the problem with that is the neophyte, his heart won't have been cleansed just now of impure things. So he takes up the process of bhakti, and after just a very, very short time, he's being allowed privy to very confidential things, Like this book that Shiva Ramanuja has done, Vilap Kusumanjali, it's Raghunath Das Goswami. And it's what he's speaking about is very confidential. So you can't just come in off the street and sit down and start reading it. There has to be certain contaminants that have been removed, a certain level of steadiness at least, the very rudimentary requirements, and then we can start. So ISKCON is, partly there was some stigma there when Srila Prabhupada was here, because they started the Gopi Bhava Club, and the devotees had only been around 5 or 10 years. And Srila Prabhupada stopped it. But it wasn't that Srila Prabhupada would have done that if the devotees had been around for 40 or 50 years. He would have encouraged it, And because of that, we've had devotees stray away from ISKCON for seemingly greener pastures, where they think, oh, we'll get more rasa here, And it's so long-winded in ISKCON. It takes so long to get sannyas. It takes so long to become a guru. It takes so long to be allowed to do Raganuga Bhakti. Whereas here, you can do it in like a couple of years, you know. So Prabhupada was careful and cautious because he didn't want it to become cheap, you know. If easy come, easy go. So it does take some time, some preparation to get to that stage. And this is just instructions for civilized human beings. It's like we're just, never mind Raganuga Bhakti, we're just trying to become human beings. We're just trying to become natural at following the four regular principles. In Vedic culture, it's kind of a given that you're already following the regular principles. You know, unless you're really out of it, you would just be doing that anyway. And so these instructions are just okay, let's just check in here, guys. Are we all human beings? Are we struggling with being a human being? And we are, because we've been trained in a very animalistic way, and it takes time to recover from that, you know, to be aware of that. So self-realization means you start becoming more aware of yourself, your strengths and your weaknesses, and you start figuring out how you're going to navigate through them, how you can compensate for them, how you can prepare for them so that those things don't happen, you know, because you've made the mistake, and now you're going to learn from that. Onwards and upwards. So it means we have to be tolerant of ourselves and tolerant of others. As we become more tolerant of ourselves, we can become more tolerant to others. They say that be very careful what you say to yourself, you know, when you're having a bad day. Because what you're saying to yourself then, you know, oh, I'm a total idiot, I'm a total waste of space, I'm useless, you know. That has an effect on you. So you have to be able to tolerate in a very caring way your inadequacies and encourage yourself, you know. Because when we say we have to make the mind a friend, it doesn't mean that, you know, my mind's a friend. Sit, run over there, go on off at Artie, do $100. It means that we train the mind to say nice things to us, to encourage us. Then the mind becomes a friend. No, oh, you're useless, you're a total, you know, why are you even trying to be a devotee? You know, you're just kidding yourself on, you know, come on. So that's not a friend, is it? A friend wouldn't say that to you. A friend would say, I'm so pleased that you're trying to do this. I know it's so difficult. It's the most difficult thing that a human being can do. And it's in Kali Yuga. There's so many things stacked against you and you're still trying. I'm so proud of you. This is so good, you know. Oh, but I only did 5 books. Well, you did the best you could. Any question? John Andy, you got a question? No. Yeah, they are. Leia. Vikshepa. So sleep, distraction, indifference or disinterest, tendency toward bad habits, and taste for material enjoyment. Shishikoni time I Shashiki. Yes.
And sorry, could you go over those 6 things that you mentioned as well?
Oh yeah. So this is in Madhurya Kandambini. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Shuddhabhati Chintamani. Actually, if you read Shuddhabhati Chintamani, is quite a big volume. And what actually happened in the history was 20 years ago, Shiv Ramanuj was writing a book called Tava Katamrita, and some of the he got some criticism about doing it, you know. So he put that on hold, and he compiled the book Shuddhabhati Chintamani, which is qualifying oneself and showing you all the different stages to come to the right. And so in that he refers a lot to Madhurya Kandambini. And so that lists okay, so I'm getting close. Yeah, it's a science, it's a whole. The problem with this system of taking notes, it just knows pull out the word. Okay, found it. So the first one, and actually Keshav Maharaj, if you get a chance to look on YouTube, he gives a lecture, and he says that they become more and more subtle. So the grossest one is utsamai, which is false confidence, or the audacity to think he has mastered everything. So devotee comes in, he's in devotional service for 45 minutes, and he starts thinking, this is really easy, actually. You just take a load of dal, jump up and down, go Harry Bowl, and you feel blissful all day. What's wrong with him? You know, he's been around 20 years and he looks really miserable. He needs to get a bit more dal down him and jump up and down, he'll be fine. It's really, really simple and black and white for a new devotee, you know. And then Ganatarala is sporadic endeavor. He sometimes is into it, sometimes he can't be bothered. Vayuddha Vikalpa, mental vacillation. Should I be a brahmachari or should I take sannyas? Actually, I think I'll get married and have 15 kids. Vishaya Sangara, war with sense pleasure. Sometimes he wins, sometimes he loses. Niya Akshama, the inability to improve devotional service, the inability to follow rules and regulations. And then Taranga Ranjani, the most subtle one, which is where Pratishta comes in as well, in Raghunath Das Goswami's Manasya Shiksha. It refers to the dancing, dog-eating prostitute that comes into the heart. So you've managed to master certain aspects of devotional service, and then you start thinking, I'm way ahead of these guys. I'm a pretty cool dude. I'm definitely the most humble. You know, I'm way, way more humble than them. That's one thing for sure. So then that Pratishta, that false prestige, the Taranga Ranjani, the enjoying the facilities that come, the abilities and talents that you acquire. Because when you first become a devotee, you haven't got a lot to be proud of because you're getting everything wrong, you know. Can't sing properly, can't offer the arti properly, can't do this. Everything you're doing, it's like you make mistakes. So that keeps you humble. But when you start getting the hang of it, then the false prestige comes in. So that's the most subtle one. Bhakti produces more opportunity for material gain, worship, and position. These are the weeds around the creeper of bhakti. What do you think of that, Jayananda? Oh, sorry, did you nod off? Yeah, Taranga Ranjani. What's Taranga Ranjani? You didn't hear it, no? Taranga Ranjani means delighting in material facilities. It's one of the most subtle forms of the 6 types of unsteady devotional service. So we can conclude that it's going to come up. It is going to come up, you know, or it has come up and we're dealing with it already, or it's just sitting there waiting around the corner. So if you are aware of those things, then when they come up, you go, oh, Vayuddha Vikalpa, I can't make up my mind. Should I do a Sankirtan today, or should I stay back, or should I just can't work it out what I should do? Oh, I must be getting a bit of Vayuddha Vikalpa. Vishaya Sangra, I was eating last night and I couldn't stop. I had 15 pieces of cake. Whoop, I lost that one. Vishaya Sangra. I lost that battle against the sense pleasure. Sporadic endeavor. I'm totally fired up and I totally couldn't be bothered. I spontaneously want to take extra rest. Like we were at a show once doing Sankirtan, and there were some of the devotees there from the Gaudiya Mat, and we as the cars are coming in, we all take turns apiece. Who's going to stop them, you know? And so there was a devotee in front of me, and then suddenly this devotee just wandered off, and he just went at the back of the cars, and he was just like that. And so I said to his friend, I said, "Oh, what's happened to him?" And he said, oh, he's Raganuga. He only does it when he feels like. So he spontaneously decided he didn't want to do it anymore. That's not quite what Raganuga is. You spontaneously want to do the right thing. You don't spontaneously not want to do the right thing. Spontaneously want to eat and spontaneously want to sleep. So 6 unsteady and five obstacles that are preventing us from reaching Nishta. Prabhupada said he wanted his disciples to come to the second stage of devotional service as quickly as possible, Majjhima Adhikaris, because Majjhima Adhikari, you're pretty reasonably safe after that. There's not much chance of a fall down, and you're just on the cusp now of getting these more elevated states of Krishna consciousness, and trying to acquire greed. Greed's something which is, they say, out of millions and millions of jivas that even take up the process of bhakti, it's very rare that one develops greed. But at least if we don't have greed, we can at least have the desire for the greed. That I'd like to have that. So that's the seed form then we have to cultivate that. And greed, it's an interesting, because when you think of greed, right, it has a certain negative connotation. If a person is greedy for something, it's generally like inappropriate if a person's greedy. So, but a person that's greedy for devotional service, he's always trying to do an extra round, or trying to do a bit more service, or trying to go the extra mile, trying to do things a bit nicer. That's a person that's developing greed. He's very, very eager, embracing everything, every aspect of bhakti. That's when greed is starting to come.
So our esteemed guest, what's his name? Pranavananda?
Pranavananda, yeah.
Yeah. He was mentioning about some of the things when he was going through his training, when he was doing his Bhakti Shastri and things, and they were keeping like charts or notes about the different things, like that could be, were they achieving these things, or were they, doing these things they shouldn't do? It seems a little difficult for us to be that organised here. I mean, me myself, I struggle to be organised and to keep tabs of things. Have you any advice for us how we can chart these things and how we can move forward, what we can do, how we can improve?
Well, he did say that 99.9% of your advancement in Krishna consciousness, I think he was quoting Srila Prabhupada, is by chanting Hare Krishna. And you can start very simply that I'm just going to start keeping a japa diary. How many rounds did I chant today? And how good were the rounds? How many times did I fall asleep while I was chanting? And there's no shame in walking up and down when you're chanting. It's fine, And I'm 63 soon, and I can walk up and down for 2 hours, no problem. It's not massively difficult. Sometimes my right foot gets a little bit sore, and that's why I've stopped doing it. But it's good to do. To walk up and down is good, especially if you've got a young body, and then you're going to be completely awake throughout your entire japa, unless you really, really. I remember one time we had this program when I was at the Mana doing Sankirtan. We were selling oil paintings at the time, and most of the sales would come in the evening. So you knock on the doors like between 4 and 6, and then you get appointments, and then I'll see you at 7, I'll see you at 7:30, I'll see you at 8, I'll see you at 8:30, and you go and show the paintings, So that's the way we used to do it. So the last appointment would be 10 o'clock, and then you may be in with that person for an hour. Then you've got to get back, so you maybe take rest, 12:30, 1 o'clock, and then we'd get up for Mangalarti, chant our rounds, and then take extra rest, So sometimes when you chant your rounds, you'll be pretty tired. And one time, I was walking up and down. That was just a given. You had to walk up and down. There's no way you're going to have to sit down and chant. I was walking up and down chanting in the corridor. And there was an arch that had been recently built in the wall. And I was thinking, that's amazing. I've never seen that before, There was a corridor going down, and I thought, that's interesting. Let's go and check it out. So I walked up to the corridor, straight into the wall. I'd fallen asleep while I was walking, and conjured up this thing in my mind. So then you know you're tired. But most of us we can walk up or down. If you've slept for 6-7 hours, you're fine. 5 hours, 4 hours, you'll still be okay. Later on, you'll feel tired. So you keep a little japa diary. How many times did I fall asleep? How attentive was the japa? How many extra rounds did I chant during the course of the rest of the day? And if you measure it, then it will improve. It's guaranteed. Whatever you measure improves. If a person's trying to give up cigarettes and he smokes 100 a day and he keeps a track of it, next day 99, 98, he'll automatically be able to improve. If he doesn't keep a track of it, then he'll just be smoking like a chimney all his life. So don't become overwhelmed. I made a big mistake today. I did this. Okay. How many times have you done that this week? Okay, so let's keep a track then. And let's reduce it. Okay, maybe we can't immediately change and become pure devotees overnight, but we can do small improvements. And we have to be patient with ourselves. Sometimes devotional service is a bit like climbing up a mountain. And it seems like it's not going to be that far, But then as you climb up the mountain, the clouds dissipate. And you see you've come a long way. You're thinking, wow, there's all my friends I used to go to school with down there in the valley. I've come a long way. And then the clouds, as you get a bit higher up, the clouds dissipate. And then you see that the mountain peak is way, way up, much further than you thought it was going to be, So, okay, I just keep going along. There's a verse, Krishna, Sri Ramanuja was saying I should learn this verse, Vaham Yaham, you know that one? Upasati, Vaham Yaham. I give them what they... How does it start? Yeah. So, because Srila Prabhupada he's a founder acharya, he's been sent to set up a whole society. So he's given the covenant, he's had a word with Krishna, and Krishna said 4 eggs, 16 rounds. If they do that, they can go back to Godhead. So you may be doing that and you realize you didn't get very far up the mountain in this lifetime, you only got so far. But because Srila Prabhupada has made this promise, then Krishna has to fulfill it. So we're in a very auspicious situation because of that. Because Lord Singh, they could have just taken Hiranyakashipu and just chopped his head off with a sword, or just gone like that with the Sudarshan at any time of the day. And he could have been in any form. He wouldn't have to have been a half man, half lion. But he did all that because he wanted to keep intact the benedictions that Lord Brahma had given Hiranyakashipu. So same Srila Prabhupada. If Srila Prabhupada has said this and promised it, then Krishna has to make sure it happens. So for ourselves, Prabhupada said our success is our enthusiasm. So everything else may go wrong, but we hold on to our enthusiasm. We remain enthusiastic. And that's what's pleasing to Krishna, our enthusiasm. We're really excited to do this. We're really appreciating the opportunity. And then whatever comes after that is a detail, but that's the main thing. Otherwise, a person could have really good karma, and he just goes out there. I was with this man yesterday, a businessman, and he used to run the factory cake stuff. Really nice man. Went round to see him at his house. I was saying, have you ever had any problems with people working for you? We've had a few problems here and there. He goes, yeah. He said, there's one guy, he was called the Teapot. They used to call him the Teapot. And he was saying, when they said that he was the Teapot, he thought it was because he was drinking loads of tea, And then one day, he came past and he saw the guy like this. Teapot. And that's what he did. That's what he was famous for just always taking it easy. How did I get onto that subject? Yeah. So somebody may be like the teapot. and they go out in Sankirtan and they just go like, excuse me, take that book, put 50 quid there, thanks a lot, have a good day. And he's just got such good karma, such charisma that people just immediately like, wow, it's like a film star or something. And they just, so he looks like he's doing really well. He's doing lots of books, he's collecting lots of Lakshmi, but he's just relying upon his material abilities. And sooner or later that karma will run out. And someone else is struggling like anything to do it. And for him to do one book is like a huge endeavor, but he's trying like anything. So he's pleasing Krishna more by that endeavor, you see, than the teapot devotee. Have you heard that before, Jayananda? The teapot? And that's what's nice about preaching, actually, because when you preach, you can hear so many amazing things that people, because everybody's actually on the program, although they may not realize it, but they're in the material world learning lessons, and we're learning them a bit quicker because all the lessons are written out for us, but they're stumbling across these truths themselves. So it's very refreshing when you come out and you realize, well, this is the absolute truth. Everyone's coming across this one way or another, that if you over endeavor, then even if you do get it, you'll lose it anyway, if it's not really what was meant for you. And on the other hand, if it's meant for you and you don't even make the endeavor and it just lands in your lap, it all just falls in place, So people have come across this type of thing already anyway. And they're just confirming what the books are telling us,
Can we help people join the dots with that? What we have in our books is what they're actually experiencing in their lives, with the karma and these things.
There's so many sayings, what's for you will no go by you, etc. So people have this sort of knowledge already. How can we join the dots for them and get them to realise that, the point of it and what's in their best interest?
Yeah, well, sometimes we have to leave the books to preach because it's easier if it's written down on a page. It's easier to accept it. When someone's telling you, there's always a certain amount of ego involved. The person doesn't want to admit defeat or be proven wrong in some way, so we would resist that. So instead, we allow the books, Srila Prabhupada's purports. And funnily enough, that joining the dots, I went to see one of my contacts in Elgin last year. And I was saying, I went to give him a science of self-realization or self-discovery. And he goes, I've read the Journey of Self-Discovery already. He said, I really enjoyed it. He said, as I was reading it, I could see all the dots getting joined up, And it's kind of a very passive way that's being done. He's kind of just coming to that conclusion himself. Oh, I was wrong about this. I was wrong about that. And this is a bad thing. You should stop doing it. Whereas if someone's telling you, then there's a certain amount of resistance there, So generally, I find when you're doing book distribution, you don't have to worry so much about preaching to the person. I mean, you show that you're interested and you empathize with the person, really, like that. And then if the person is saying some things which are like, I was down in the bottom of the garden yesterday with 6 pixies, and we were just talking about the wonders of magic mushrooms. You think, okay, that's totally bogus. But then somehow or other they you say, oh yeah, that's why this is really an interesting book, Easy Journey to Other Planets, because it's showing us how there's a whole world out there that we're not aware of, in some way like that, Or if the person, anyway, that's the expertise, and it's not generally that the person who gets the book's going to read it anyway. That book's going to go into somebody else's hands, Usually, it's a high chance of it. First book I got had been passed through about, well, there was a squat that I was going to, and everyone in the squat practically had read the book, had gone through, and then they said, give it to Tony. Krishna book. So that was the first book that I read. And when I read it, I was like, wow, I want to go to the temple. I want to see what the devotees are like, And I went to Chaitanya College in '82. First thing when I came in was I could smell the incense. They were burning Nag Champ. I thought anything that smells like this must be right. I've never smelled anything like it before, you know. And then prasadam the next day, I was high, really high on the prasadam, you know. And I was thinking, that's how you do it. That's how you can give up intoxication, illicit sex, everything. You just take this prasadam, and it makes up for everything else. So it's Krishna first of all gives us some encouragement, and then after that, then we have to start earning everything, you know, to start learning and earning. The more you learn, the more you earn. That's what you earn, really. You earn the learning, the sambandha. Once you get all the knowledge, then you can become detached very easily. So the knowledge has to go deep. It can't just be theoretical knowledge. It has to become deep knowledge. And Guru Govinda Maharaj, he says, Krishna consciousness is like swimming in an ocean. And if you want the pearls, you have to go deep, because the pearls are on the ocean bed. So if you're just swimming on the surface, you won't get the pearls. You have to go deep, deep in your japa, deep in your reading, deep in your association, and then you'll get the pearls. Iskon Guru Govinda ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Premanandi.
His Grace Adhoksaja Krishna Das ki.
All of you, ki jai.